So I'm almost chuckling about January 6th because the efforts to make this day seem worse than 9/11 seem like the worst thing that ever happened in U.S. history. They're ridiculous, they're laughable, and they're not giving up, the left. Right now, Adam Kinzinger, Adam Schiff, they're all scratching their heads. They're outraged also that we are not outraged and blown away by what happened yesterday on Capitol Hill. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Number one, nobody was really watching, okay? They thought this was like the Nixon-Watergate hearings. It was not. Nobody really was paying much attention. We have heard their story before. These guys have been overexposed, particularly Fanon. We'll get to him. And also, we all have seen hundreds of riots that were far worse than anything that happened on January 6th, all right? It's true. Let's review. Portland. This is Portland. Molotov cocktails being thrown at cops September 24th, 2020. That was not January 6th. Let's go on to Seattle. A police officer hit, cops being thrown, traffic devices, baseball bats. September 24th, 2020, not January 6th. How about this? The looting of that Louis Vuitton in Atlanta, May 31st of 2020. That was not January 6th. Rioters beating up a man in Dallas, Texas on May 31st, 2020. That was not January 6th. How about this? The looting in New York City on June 1st, 2020. That was not January 6th. There's more, of course. We can go on and on. Minneapolis, the police station there, when it was taken over by rioters, celebrated, glorified, May 28th, 2020, not January 6th. Washington, D.C., fires everywhere, particularly downtown near the White House, June 1st, 2020. That is not January 6th. Chicago, when the Nike store was looted, May 30th, 2020. That is not January 6th. Fast forward to New York City. Cop being hit in the head with a baton. Right there, right there. June 2020, not January 6th. How about the New York City police vehicle that was set on fire by two lawyers, allegedly? Molotov cocktail thrown inside, May 30th, 2020. Not January 6th. And a police officer here in New York City, the Bronx, being hit in the head with a fire extinguisher on June 1st of 2020. Not January 6th. You see? You see? We all know this, by the way, and we could go on and on and on for hours, all right? Now, this stuff, what you just saw, we were horrified by it, but the mainstream media, they were normalizing it, and yes, glorifying it.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not, generally speaking, unruly.
They're either totally out of it or deliberately misleading for most of what they do. But we saw the truth and we saw how they distorted it. What's even stranger, in my opinion, how the military, our military, the United States military, characterized the summer of Black Lives Matter.
And we should all be proud that the vast majority of protests have been peaceful. Peaceful protest means that American freedom is working.
That is not true about the vast majority being peaceful. That is not true. And what were Democrats saying?
We have arrived at a point in our country that we should recognize this is not just a moment, it is a movement. It is a movement that is fueled by the diversity, the beautiful diversity of who we are coming together as a unified body. Demanding, in this case, change and justice for everyone.
See, beating up cops, rioting, setting things on fire, it's all beautiful. It's all for justice if you're on the side of the left, if you're on the side of Black Lives Matter. Look at these numbers. We had at least 270 riots where there was property damage, significant property damage for Black Lives Matter, and one riot on January 6th on the other side of the political spectrum. 270 versus 1. Again, if you're on the left, it's all beautiful. It's all to be glorified, even if you're objecting to an election, especially if Donald Trump was just elected president.
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified.
Is the objection in writing and signed not only by the member of the House of Representatives, but also by a senator?
It is in writing, Mr. President.
Is it signed by a senator?
Not as of yet, Mr. President.
In that case, the objection cannot be entertained.
Not as of yet, but I'm working on it. You see, that is beautiful because they were opposing Donald Trump. However, if you have concerns about the 2020 election, and it was January 6th, this act is considered traitorous. The same thing that Raskin did in 2017, although it was done actually a bit more successfully.
I, Paul Gosar from Arizona.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Arizona rise?
I rise up for myself and 60 of my colleagues to object to the counting of the electoral ballots from Arizona.
Is the objection in writing and signed by a senator?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Congressman Gosar managed to get a senator to sign on board. How is this traitorous? But what Congressman Raskin tried to do in 17, that somehow is beautiful, and you see, double standards across the board. So they've tried to distort January 6th beyond all recognition. Most of us are savvy enough to not fall for it, so they had to up it a little bit and had this phony hearing with these cherry-picked cops who seem more than inclined to play ball. And again, they're just mystified, the MSNBC crowd and everybody else, that we did not fall for it. Quite frankly, it wasn't that convincing at all.
My uniform had it on. Sorry.
I was carried back inside. What happened afterwards is much less vivid.
One of the invaders approached me like he was going to try to get past me and head down the stairs. I was stunned by what I saw.
It was all overdone, and now we're learning things about these officers that really undermines their story. And these, by the way, are rank-and-file cops, but some of them are acting like they have figured out the whole thing, the whole plot. It was a big plot to stop Joe Biden, right?
Tell me what's worth all of that pain? What was worth it? What were you fighting for that day?
Democracy. You were 40 feet away, 40 yards, whatever. Especially with the razor-thin margins on Democrats and Republicans in the House and Senate, if any single one person was kidnapped or killed, which I have no doubt in my mind is what they intended, that would affect the outcome of legislation and all your duties for years to come.
Did you know that this was a kidnapping plot? This officer is totally convinced of that, even though no one else has made that determination. Again, they were just not impressive and kind of alarming in their lack of stability.
The indifference shown to my colleagues is disgraceful.
This is important. Actually, this show had an impact on the hearings. But before I get to that, Fanone here, a Metropolitan Police officer, works in Washington. This guy should not be carrying a badge and a gun anymore. No way.
Right now, one of those parties has a cancer, and we got to cut it out.
There's a little bit too much on his mind, it seems like. He can quit and he can pursue lobbying and that kind of thing. But anyway, I wondered about this guy because he was on Capitol Hill. He just showed up. He wasn't part of a coordinated response. And I was I was wondering, given his look, could he have been seen as Antifa? There's reason to think that. Anyway, I only asked the question on Twitter. Well, Congressman Raskin picked up on that.
Forgive me for these questions, but I've got to ask you, apparently in some nether regions of the internet, it's being said that you, Officer Fanone, maybe were mistaken for Antifa, and that's why you were nearly beaten to death that day and carried in the crowd. Is there any way you think you were mistaken for Antifa?
Yeah, it was just a question. And I was wondering. I'm glad he asked. But here's why I asked. Fanone was wearing, I believe, a peculiar uniform. Take a look at it. All black, none of the customary markings. He actually said yesterday that it was the first time in 10 years he had worn the uniform. Before that, he had been in undercover work and administrative duties, so he didn't have to wear a uniform. That was the first time in 10 years he had worn one. Did he have a police hat? And by the way, what's with the tattoos? Lots of police officers have tattoos. Lots of Americans have tattoos. But neck tattoos, that's a whole nother level. And a lot of police departments don't allow them. I know the military has a problem with that. Take a look at this. The Marine Corps regulations specifically say no neck tattoos. The Army has a very similar policy. No neck tattoos, nothing that visible. And that was awfully visible. Maybe, just maybe, they didn't understand that he was law enforcement. So when we were bold enough to make these common sense observations, guess what? The left-wing media flipped out.
People on, all of these right-wing networks getting on and saying they're crisis actors, saying these people made this up. There's primetime hosts on other networks, like giving out acting awards for who was the best actor in this category and that category. I mean, the most disgusting, appalling, morally depraved, stomach churning behavior on people who are not worthy. Not even worthy to coexist on the same planet in some ways with these people.
Raising questions about those cops mean I'm not even worthy to inhabit the planet Earth. Talk about the elite media. I'm from a law enforcement family, by the way. I served in the military 9 years active duty, 20 altogether, plus in the reserves. This guy, he's not like us. He's not like us. I do wish, though, I gave out one of those awards. Somebody else did this on the internet. It was brilliant. And Adam Kinzinger gets a Best Actor award.
You guys all talk about the effects you have to deal with, and, you talk about the impact of that day. But you guys won. You guys held. Democracy.
That was good. Want to show you this as well. Some other MSNBC personality, presence, really, they are trying to cancel those who disagree because, well, these days, if you disagree with the left, you are cancelable.
He is out there every day infecting more and more people in this country. He has a strong base of supporters who deny reality, who live their denial daily, and they pose an extreme danger to the rest of us and to the republic, to the foundations of our government, to the foundations of history.
I'm more concerned about almost a year's worth of rioting that did hundreds of millions of dollars in damage, destroyed businesses and lives. I'm more concerned about hundreds of riots than I am about one riot, and that makes me a threat to our very foundations of history or whatever he was saying. It's absurd. But these people, they have powerful friends. We have got to stick together and fight back. And final word on this. They had an entire hearing yesterday about January 6th and did not even mention Ashley Babbitt. And they think they're on the side of truth and justice and reality. Of course they aren't.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.